In a small village where drums whispered secrets and ancient trees gathered old wisdom, a cold-hearted kidnapper seized a child with extraordinary powers, a boy who could speak with animals and command the very winds. The kidnapper thought he had found his fortune, but what he didn't realize was that his victim would become his salvation, and his crime would lead him down a path that would forever change his life. Long ago, in a peaceful village nestled between rolling hills and a gentle river, there lived a special boy named Obi. Unlike other children, Obi had been blessed with amazing gifts. He understood the language of animals, and when he sang, even the wild wind would come to listen. The villagers cherished Obi for his kind heart and the joy he brought into their lives. Obi lived with his grandmother, Nana Amma, a wise elder known throughout the region for her healing herbs and captivating stories. Each evening, villagers would gather around the fire outside their modest hut to hear Nana Amma's tales and watch in wonder as Obi chatted with forest creatures that emerged at dusk. "Look," the children would shout with delight as birds perched on Obi's shoulders and chirped in his ears, making him laugh. "What did they say?" they would ask, eyes wide with amazement. "They say rain will come tomorrow," Obi would reply, or "they warn of a fallen tree blocking the path to the river." His warnings and predictions always came true, which made the village both value and protect him. The village elders often spoke of how Obi's gifts were a blessing from their ancestors. They believed the boy had been chosen to maintain the connection between their people and the natural world. Some even whispered that one day, Obi would become the greatest healer and leader their village had ever known. Unknown to the peaceful villagers, a man named Musa watched from the shadows, his eyes gleaming with greed. Musa had once belonged to a nearby village but had been cast out for stealing. He had wandered for years, taking what wasn't his, growing bitter and cunning. When he heard tales of the gifted child who could speak to animals and predict the future, a dark plan formed in his mind. Such a child would fetch many coins from the right buyer, Musa thought, imagining the wealth a rich merchant or chief might pay for a boy with such talents. "I will take him and finally have the riches I deserve." Musa had tried many ways to make money over the years, farming, trading, even honest work, but nothing lasted. His fingers were quick to steal and his temper quick to flare. No village would keep him for long, and so he became a wanderer, surviving on what he could take from others. For days, Musa lurked near the village, learning its routines and Obi's habits. He noticed that each morning, Obi walked alone to the river to collect water before the village awoke. This would be his chance. One misty dawn, Musa waited behind a massive baobab tree near the river path. As Obi approached with his water jug, humming softly to himself, Musa pounced from his hiding spot and grabbed the boy, quickly covering his mouth with a rough hand. "Make no sound, boy," he hissed, his voice like ice, "or things will go very badly for your grandmother and friends." Tears welled in Obi's eyes, but he nodded, understanding the terrible threat. Musa bound Obi's hands with coarse rope and dragged him away from the village, deep into the forest where no one would find them. The kidnapper planned to take Obi to a distant city where no one would recognize either of them, and there he would sell the boy's extraordinary gifts to the highest bidder. Back in the village, Nana Amma woke to find Obi missing. She called out for him, but only eerie silence answered. The water jug lay abandoned by the riverside. Soon, the entire village was searching frantically, calling Obi's name through forest and field. The village hunters examined the ground around the river and found two sets of footprints, one small like Obi's and one larger, heading deep into the forbidden forest. "Someone has taken our gifted child," the hunters reported to Chief Otu. The chief's face darkened with fury and concern. "Search every path, every hiding place," he commanded. "Our Obi must be found before he is taken beyond our reach." Meanwhile, Musa forced Obi to walk for many grueling hours until they were far from known paths. When night fell, he built a small fire and tied Obi to a tree, the rope cutting into the boy's tender skin. "Tomorrow we will reach the big road that leads to the city," Musa said, mentally counting the coins he would soon possess. "There, you will make me rich with your gifts." Obi remained silent, his eyes downcast. But when Musa fell into a deep sleep, the boy whispered softly to the night creatures around them. A small mouse scurried close, nibbling at the ropes that held him. Fireflies gathered, illuminating the forest enough for the mouse to see it walk. But dawn came too quickly, and though the ropes were looser, they still held Obi when Musa awoke. "What are you whispering about, boy?" Musa demanded, noticing Obi's moving lips. "I was only saying my morning prayers," Obi replied softly. Musa grunted and yanked Obi to his feet. "Save your prayers. You'll need your voice for more money-making things soon." He tossed Obi a tiny piece of dried meat, just enough to keep the boy walking but not enough to give him strength to run away. Obi chewed slowly, carefully preserving every bit of energy the food provided. They continued their journey, but strange things began to happen. Birds followed them, flying overhead and calling loudly. Monkeys in the trees pelted Musa with nuts and sticks. Even bees seemed to buzz angrily around his head while leaving Obi completely untouched. "What is happening?" Musa shouted, swatting at a persistent bird that kept diving at his head. Obi said nothing, but a faint smile played at the corner of his lips. By midday, they reached a small stream where Musa decided they would rest and drink. As he bent down to the water, a large frog leaped directly into his face, causing him to fall backward in shock. When he scrambled to his feet and looked for Obi, he found the boy surrounded by a circle of animals, monkeys, a small antelope, birds of many colors, and even a turtle slowly making its way to join them. "What magic is this?" Musa demanded, fear creeping into his voice. "It is not magic," Obi replied calmly. "It is friendship. The animals know I have been taken against my will. They are protecting me." "Nonsense. They are just dumb beasts," Musa sneered, though his voice trembled slightly. He grabbed Obi roughly by the arm and dragged him away from the gathering of creatures. "Come. We must reach the big road before dark." As they walked on, the forest seemed to grow denser and the path harder to follow. Vines appeared to reach out and tangle around Musa's ankles. Thorny bushes that hadn't been there moments before blocked their way. The wind picked up, howling through the trees in what almost sounded like words of warning. "Your grandmother has taught you tricks," Musa accused, hacking at the vines with his knife. "But they won't help you. I know this forest better than any man." Yet as the day wore on, even Musa had to admit they were lost. The paths he thought he knew led nowhere, and the sun's position revealed they had been walking in circles. "We will camp here tonight," he finally declared, exhausted and frustrated. He tied Obi to a tree again, this time checking the knots carefully before sitting down to eat some dried meat from his bag. He offered none to the hungry boy. As darkness fell, Obi began to sing. His voice was soft at first, then grew stronger, rising and falling in a melody that seemed to dance with the night wind. It was beautiful but haunting, filled with words in a language Musa didn't understand. "Silence," Musa ordered, unnerved by the strange song. But Obi continued, his voice blending with the sounds of the night until it seemed the whole forest was singing with him. Then came the drums. Distant at first, then growing closer, talking drums that spoke in patterns Musa couldn't understand but that clearly meant something to Obi, whose face brightened as he listened. "What is that? Who is coming?" Musa demanded, jumping to his feet and drawing his knife, eyes darting fearfully between the shadows. "The village searches for me," Obi said simply. "The animals have told them where we are, and the drums share the message." "You lie. We are too far for anyone to find us," Musa insisted, though panic crept into his voice. But the drums grew louder, and now there were voices too, calling Obi's name. Terrified, Musa cut Obi free and dragged him deeper into the forest, away from the sounds. But no matter which way they ran, the drums and voices seemed to surround them from all sides. Exhausted and hopelessly lost, Musa stumbled into a small clearing where moonlight illuminated a circle of ancient stones. He shoved Obi roughly to the ground. "This is your doing," he accused, wild-eyed. "You and your witch grandmother." Obi looked up at his captor without fear. "Nana Oma is not a witch. She is wise in the ways of our ancestors. And I have not called the drums, the forest itself speaks against you for what you have done." As if to confirm his words, the wind suddenly rose, whipping around them so violently that Musa had to cling to one of the standing stones. In the pale moonlight, shadows moved between the trees, taking shapes that were neither human nor animal but something in between. For the first time, true fear gripped Musa's heart. The stories told around village fires, the ones he had always dismissed as foolish tales, now seemed terrifyingly real. Stories of forest spirits who protected the innocent and punished wrongdoers. "What do you want from me?" he shouted at the shifting shadows, his voice breaking. Obi stood up, his robe somehow fallen away. "They want you to understand the wrong you have done," he said quietly. "Not just to me, but to yourself." "To myself." Musa laughed, though his hands shook uncontrollably. "I was taking what life owed me." "Life owes no man anything," came a new voice, deep and clear as flowing water. From between the trees stepped Nana Oma, leaning on her walking stick, her white hair glowing in the moonlight. Behind her came several village hunters, carrying blazing torches and sharp spears. "Grandmother!" Obi cried, running to embrace her. Musa raised his knife, looking frantically from side to side for an escape route, but the hunters quickly surrounded him. "You cannot escape what you have done, Musa," said Nana Oma. "Yes, I know who you are. The forest has whispered your name and your evil deeds to us." "Take your boy and let me go," Musa demanded, though his voice now lacked power. "I will leave your lands and never return." "It is not so simple," Nana Oma replied. "You have broken the trust and peace in our world. Such breaks must be mended." She approached Musa, showing no fear of his blade. The wind subsided, and even the night creatures grew silent, as if waiting for what would happen next. "You have lived by taking what belongs to others, thinking it would bring you happiness," she said. "But has it? Look at yourself, Musa. You are alone, afraid, hated by all who know your name. Is this the life you wanted?" Something in her words reached a part of Musa he had long buried. Memories of his childhood, before anger and greed had poisoned his heart. Memories of belonging, of laughter around a fire not so different from the one in Obi's village. His knife lowered slightly. "What would you have me do, old woman? I cannot change what I am." "But you can," Obi said, stepping forward despite his grandmother's attempt to hold him back. "Everyone can choose a new path. The animals have told me so. Even the oldest turtle can change direction." Musa stared at the boy, this child he had planned to sell, who now looked at him not with hatred but with compassion. It stirred unfamiliar feelings in his chest. "The boy will come with us," one of the hunters declared, stepping forward. "But what of this kidnapper? Shall we take him to the chief for judgment?" The villagers talked among themselves, many calling for harsh punishment. But Nana Oma raised her hand for quiet. "Judgment has already found him," she said. "Look into his eyes and you will see it. But healing can follow judgment, if he is willing." She turned back to Musa. "You have a choice now. You can run and continue on your path of taking an emptiness. Or you can come with us, work to repair the harm you have done, and perhaps find something you have never truly had, a place to belong." Musa's laugh was bitter. "You would welcome a kidnapper? A thief?" "Not welcome," Nana Oma corrected. "But allow you the chance to earn welcome, which is different." For a long moment, Musa stood frozen, unable to decide. The path of his life stretched behind him, lonely and empty despite all he had stolen. Ahead lay uncertainty, hard work, and the suspicious eyes of those he had wronged. Yet also, perhaps, a chance for something more meaningful. His knife fell to the ground with a soft thud. The journey back to the village took most of the night. Musa walked in silence, watched closely by the hunters. Obi rode on the shoulders of the strongest hunter, sometimes whispering to birds that flew alongside them. As dawn broke, they reached the village, where everyone had stayed awake waiting for news. Cheers erupted at the sight of Obi, safe and unharmed. But those cheers quickly turned to angry mutters when Musa was recognized. The village chief, a stern man named Otu, stepped forward. "You bring a snake into our midst," he questioned Nana Oma. "I bring a man who has lost his way," she replied with quiet dignity. "And who has agreed to find a new one." Chief Otu was doubtful, as were most of the villagers. It was decided that Musa would stay, but under constant watch. He would work the hardest fields, repair the most damaged huts, and earn every morsel of food through honest labor. He would sleep apart from the others, in a simple shelter at the edge of the village. And if he tries to steal or harm anyone again, Chief Otu declared, his punishment will be swift and final. The months that followed tested Musa's resolve. He worked from sunrise to sunset, his hands becoming callous from labor he had avoided all his life. Most villagers shunned him, speaking only to give orders or warnings. Children ran from him in terror. Only Obi treated him differently. Despite Nana Oma's concerns, the boy would bring Musa water during his walk, or sit nearby telling stories to his animal friends, showing no fear of the man who had once tried to sell him. "Why do you not fear me, boy?" Musa asked one day, as Obi offered him a gourd of cool water. "The animals say your heart is changing," Obi replied simply. "They can tell such things better than people can." Gradually, as seasons passed, the villagers began to accept Musa as he proved himself to be a reliable worker. He built the steadiest huts, crafted the finest fish traps, and even began to teach the children how to carve wood into beautiful toys and useful tools. One terrible night, a fierce storm struck the village. Lightning hit a tree and flames threatened to spread to the nearby homes. Without hesitation, Musa was the first to rush toward the danger. He led the villagers in fighting the fire, working tirelessly throughout the night until every home was saved. The next morning, Chief Otu found Musa sitting alone, exhausted from the night's efforts. "Why did you help us?" the chief asked. "You could have escaped in the confusion." Musa considered this question carefully. "Because this feels like my home now," he said softly, his voice filled with emotion. "And you feel like my people." From that day forward, Musa truly became part of the village. He was given a proper hut among the others. He was invited to important village meetings. Children no longer feared him but eagerly sought his stories and skills. As the seasons turned and years passed, Musa's hands, once used only for taking, learned to create and build. His eyes, once sharp with greed, softened with wisdom. His heart, once empty and cold, warmed with the glow of true belonging. Years flowed by like the gentle river. Obi grew into a strong young man, his gifts even more powerful than before. He became the village healer after Nana Oma, helping people and animals alike with his gentle touch and deep understanding. Musa became one of the most respected village elders, known for his fair judgments and thoughtful advice. Often, in the peaceful evenings, Musa and Obi would sit together by the fire, surrounded by Obi's faithful animal companions who now accepted Musa as a friend. "I once thought I could get rich by stealing you," Musa would say, his eyes reflecting the dancing flames. "But instead, you helped me find something far more precious." "And what is that?" Obi would ask, though he already knew the answer. "A true home," Musa would reply, his voice gentle with gratitude. "And a heart that finally knows peace." The story of the kidnapper who took a gifted child and found redemption spread throughout the region, carried by travelers and traders. People told it to remind others that even the darkest mistake can become the first step on a brighter path. That anyone can change when given the chance. And most importantly, that true wealth isn't found in what you take, but in what you give. To this day, in that special village between the hills and the river, they remember Musa not as a kidnapper, but as the man who learned life's greatest lesson, that a life of taking leaves you empty inside, but a life of giving fills your heart with treasures that no thief can ever steal.